What up, Entourage? We are live now on YouTube. Make sure you swipe up and join us for Waiver Wire and much, much more. What up, Entourage? Week 7. Wow. Almost halfway through the regular fantasy season. And some pretty good waiver wires. Definitely some guys that are worth a pickup. I'm going to go over my top 5 waivers. So hopefully, you guys held those waivers like I tell you to and not use them on, marginal players. Because there's some guys definitely worth picking up. We'll go over that. Also want to discuss Tua. Dolphins, unexpectedly naming Tua their starter despite being 3-3 and Fitzpatrick playing pretty well from both a fantasy and real life perspective. Want to go over that as well as tonight's games that I didn't get to touch on like I usually do on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you do so at fantasyfootballrapper or at fantasyfootballrapper, and then Twitter at IMFFrapper. Also, if you are interested in the premium content, I sliced it in half. Rest of the year is only $10. Just email me info.fantasyfootballrapper@gmail.com, or you could just Venmo me, give me your address or email address. I take PayPal, Square. I got a website that's coming along, hopefully sooner than later, so everything will be a lot smoother. But $10, that's all it's going to cost. All right, guys. Well, let's get it. The fantasy football Entourage for winning. Alrighty, so before we go into waivers, last night we had 2 games, two what should have been good games, but Kansas City pretty much, manhandled Buffalo, even though the score didn't indicate that much of a gap. Looks like Buffalo's not quite yet ready to play with the big boys. A little disappointed in Josh Allen, but it seems like overall the Kansas City's defense has been really good against quarterbacks and receivers. Even though Diggs caught a touchdown, obviously Diggs is just completely unstoppable. Always had the talent. One of my favorite players coming into this draft based on volume. Right now he's a top 5 wide receiver. So Diggs is matchup proof, never, plug and play starter. Josh Allen still ended up with, I think, basically 20 points depending on your league, which is cool because that's what I like about Josh Allen, that even in a bad game where he passes for less than 200 yards, he makes up for it in the running game. I wouldn't worry too much about Josh Allen. Like I said, Derek Carr obviously, lit him up the week before, but it's the NFL. Sometimes teams have a letdown game, but overall, Kansas City the last 2 years has been one of the best against the pass and against quarterbacks. So Josh Allen's cool. Singletary hasn't looked great. Zach Moss didn't really get much touches either. They didn't really get in the red zone, so we didn't get to see if they're going to continue using Zach Moss as the red zone or goal line back, which is going to be interesting to see. But Singletary was definitely the lead back by far, so he's going to be about, every week flex, borderline RB2 type of player. So Singletary not quite. I know a lot of people are jumping off that bandwagon, but he is a talented player. But in that offense, it hurts because Josh Allen runs the ball so much, and he runs it also a lot in the goal line back. So if you're not the goal line back, you're getting some targets, but not a ton of carries. That's going to limit Singletary's upside. But, in this climate, there's really, who's tearing it up? CMC's out, Barkley's out, Chubb is out. Nobody, especially this past week, there was Derrick Henry, Connor, Drake, which we'll touch on momentarily. But overall, we had running backs with, that were RB2s with 10 points. So crazy year, I tell you. And then from the Chiefs side of it, CEH, looked really good. CEH was somebody I really liked. The last couple weeks he's been on my buy list, but I think when Bell comes back, here's the thing about CEH. I wouldn't necessarily sell him off this performance because I think I saw a stat where he's like second in evaded tackles or broken tackles or something like that. He was getting a ton of volume. So even if that some of that volume scales back, he's still going to have, enough volume to make him an elite RB2, possibly a low RB1. Because let's face it, guys, this is still the Kansas City Chiefs offense. And the big thing I noticed, too, the big difference was they did some shifting on the offensive line that seemed to pay off some dividends. Now, we'll add this. Buffalo's rush defense is not the best. They were obviously more concerned with the Chiefs playmakers like Tyreek Hill, so they're really good in the secondary, but in the past couple seasons, they have been suspect against the run. So the matchup was there, the volume was there, but at the end of the day, you got to produce, and that's exactly what CEH did. So if anything, I would be leaning more towards a buy for owners that think they're being slick, like, well, Bell wasn't there and he produced. This is my chance to sell him. So if that's the case, I'm looking to buy. As long as you get fair value, as long as you're not paying first round CEH prices, I think he's a good investment. Okay. Moving on to the second game. Wow, what a shellacking. Arizona's defense came to play. Andy Dalton. There was some Amari Cooper had a bad drop in the end zone. He didn't look terrible. I mean, Budda Baker made an amazing play on that interception. It's his first game, so I think there'll be better days for Andy Dalton. At least, the main two guys, which is CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, had decent games. I mean, CeeDee Lamb he looks amazing. Amazing. Like, I wish I had him. I have him in no leagues, but CeeDee Lamb, he's the real deal. I think he's quarterback proof, especially the fact that he plays the slot. So he's always going to be lining up. He's like a wide receiver 1 on any other team, and he's a wide receiver 3 on the Dallas Cowboys with a team that's going to be throwing a lot. They're going to be down a ton, and he's matched up against the team's nickel corner, third corner, and yeah. So CeeDee Lamb, all in on that guy. Zeke, he didn't play great, but I wouldn't worry. I don't think, Zeke's going to be an RB1 regardless. Top 5, depending how injuries go. Mike McCarthy, I'm not crazy about him as an offensive play caller. Already players are saying that they weren't prepared and yada, yada, yada. But I won't worry too much about Zeke. Obviously, Cooper looks like he's still going to be the guy, which is one of my concerns. But I also don't think he's going to be like Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper. But we'll go and see. As long as Dallas defense keeps playing the way they are and they're having to throw the football, I think pretty much, all of Dallas playmakers are relatively safe. From the Arizona Cardinals side of the ball, Murray keeps doing his thing, doing a lot on the ground as well. Drake, it's fool's gold. It's fool's gold. He's not getting any targets. Murray got stopped short of the goal line, so he literally just had to walk it in. So he got a 1-yard touchdown, and then most of his yards came with less than 2 minutes left when he broke it for 70 yards. This is the perfect sell high candidate. So no, I'm not buying into Drake because all the other games, he hasn't had a game with more than 15 points. I think it was like 12 or 13 points. He had a couple clunkers with like 3 points and stuff against Carolina. So I'm not buying into the Drake hype. Christian Kirk, we'll discuss him now in the waiver wire video. Actually, he's not my top 5, but I think he's worth an ad. Against throwing offense. They can't all go to D-Hop, and he has talent. His main thing is that he can't stay on the field. So even though he won't be playing Dallas every week, and I'd like to see him get more targets, he's still, all it takes is one deep throw, and they are a team that likes to go vertical. So I do like Christian Kirk moving forward as somebody you could get, relatively cheap, if not free. All right. Now, for our top 5 waiver wires. Number 1. This shouldn't be much of a surprise for anybody, is Boston Scott. Philly, lacking playmakers. Miles Sanders should be out at least a week or 2. And Boston Scott, if you guys remember last year, was pretty good. He might have even been an RB1 for the playoffs. Now, given 2 of those games came against the Giants, he had, almost 36 points and 25 points in those 2 games. Guess who he plays Thursday night? The Giants. On a short week at that. So, Boston Scott, definitely want to pick him up. You could put him in and start him right away. He has RB1 upside for the week. I don't know if you'll get it. More like an RB2, but he has that upside given that they're facing the Giants and on a short week. Now, I will say the Giants have been pretty good against the run, relatively speaking, but he killed them with the receptions. He had 6 in those 3 weeks, that 14, 15, 16 playoffs. He had 6, 7, and 6 receptions. So Giants can be had in the air against running backs. So I love Boston Scott. Also, his teammate. Actually, this is pretty much the whole Philadelphia edition is the waiver wire. So Travis Fulgam, he's legit, guys. He's legit. Like, I watched a lot of film because before I was like, this guy basically just came off the streets. And, he had the one big game against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh defense overall is good, but they haven't been that good against the secondary. But, man, when you catch like 10 passes, 150-something yards and a touchdown, even if it's not, the best defense, which Pittsburgh's still pretty good, that's nothing to snooze at. And he passed the eye test. He might not pass the wow test on the combine. He's not the fastest, biggest, strongest, but he's big. He's big. He's a great route runner, and he's great at using his body to catch the football. He's a red zone threat as well, given to his size, and the opportunity is there. I'm not worried about Alshon Jeffrey or Deshaun Jackson because, A, the obvious, they're both injury prone, and B, they're not the future. Why not play your guy, especially a guy that's playing that good? You see, at first I thought, okay, maybe, given the situation, Philadelphia had absolutely nothing at receiver. They got to throw it to somebody. He got a lot of targets, but the chemistry's there. And again, the targets are there, and Carson Wentz is looking for him. There was a couple passes even in the game where they call pass interference, and he probably could have caught those balls as well. So he looks really good, and then he did it against Baltimore. And that right there is the icing on the cake. It really is. When you do it against Baltimore, which has a good secondary, going up against Marcus Peters, who was flagged on a big play, this guy's physical. I like that. Like, he has the makeup of a prototypical wide receiver one. Not saying he's going to be a wide receiver one in fantasy. I mean, if he keeps it up, obviously you can. But he has that size. It's just he doesn't have the draft capital. But, I mean, as far as the eye test, I guess we'll find out more in the upcoming weeks, but he's definitely worth the ad. So once, Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Reagor, Alshon Jeffrey come back, we're going to really find out how they feel about him. But I have a hard time believing that you're going to take somebody out of the lineup that's playing that good. Okay. Justin Herbert, if you need a quarterback, I can't believe this guy is available. Again, some of these guys are going to be players that we discussed in prior episodes, but they're still available in half the league, so I got to mention them, especially when Justin Herbert, his 4 starts, 24 points, 16 points, 29 points, 35 points. Like, I don't get how's this guy overlooked? He's got the weapons, he's got the offense, the defense playing bad, they're throwing it, they're running it. He's the 8th best QB in PPR, in points per game. So Justin Herbert, if you need a quarterback, definitely worth the ad. And then, another quarterback. Tua. Tua's named the starter. That's pretty crazy. Fitz has been playing good. He hasn't been turning the ball over. The Dolphins are 3-3. And then they put Tua in for junk time, and all of a sudden he becomes a starter. Which leads me to believe he's going to be fired. Yeah, so I think overall it's going to help all the Dolphins' offensive weapons. Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, and especially Mike Gesicki. We saw him and Irv Smith had a really nice chemistry at Alabama. Rookies, they tend to dumb down the playbook. So, and the tight end tends to be a little bit of a security blanket. We know Gesicki likes to, Gailey likes to use Gesicki in the slot. He was already the number 1 slot tight end last year. So I expect Gesicki to benefit the most. Myles Gaskin too, the offense as a whole, because all I've been hearing out of camp and from Miami Dolphins is like, wow, this kid looks special. Even Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's like, this kid could do stuff I cannot do. And when the most important thing in today's NFL for a quarterback is accuracy. You got to get the ball to your receivers. So many people get enamored with the big arm. Well, Dwayne Haskins got a big arm. Where is he? He's the 3rd string quarterback and was inactive. So you could have all the physical tools. Jordan Love. This kid has looked atrocious. But at the end of the day, guys like Alex Smith, who is not as talented, has nowhere near the arm strength of some of these guys that I mentioned to you, but they've been QB1s and they've had long careers. So now we got a guy like Tua, who has almost a 70% completion percentage in college, had over 70% his last year in college, and he also has mobility, not a running quarterback. but he has that playmaking ability, which you need in today's NFL because it's so fast. That pocket passer quarterback is being extinct, and he could throw from the pocket. But he also has the mobility to make plays and buy himself time and get receivers open like Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, and Mike Gesicki. As a collective unit, they're pretty good receivers. Not elite, but they're good. You know, they've been productive. They got the job done. Preston Williams has got some momentum, not getting the targets, but touchdowns in back-to-back games. We'll see, if he gets a couple more targets now with Tua. So Miami's a pretty solid team. I think Tua has QB1 upside because, look, we just said Herbert was a QB1 in points per game. This is a different league, guys. Joe Burrow, last time I checked, he was a QB1. Maybe he slipped now. So every year we get rookie quarterbacks being a QB1. It's like this myth that, quarterbacks can't be fantasy relevant, but we saw it with Lamar Jackson 2 years ago when he became the starter. Same thing with Josh Allen. Kyler Murray last year. So don't let that rookie stuff scare you. I think Tua is going to be phenomenal. You might even be able to get him, for free the next day or whatever because he is on a bye. And quarterback, is not a position people really go out of their way to get. But somebody definitely worth picking up and mentioning. Love Tua. T. Higgins. Man, look at this guy's games. Last 4 weeks. 21 points, 13 points, 10 points, 18 points. No less than 7 targets. Legit. Second-round talent. Again, bad defense, throwing offense. And, receivers are the one position that tend to get better as the season goes along. As I've said this before, remember Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, all these receivers started super slow last year, and they ended up being, potential league winners, especially in the case of like A.J. Brown, who just was an absolute beast the second half of the year. T. Higgins could be that guy, especially when, it's just a matter of time before A.J. Green gets injured again. And Tyler Boyd, he's cool, but he owns the slot, so T. Higgins should get good looks. He's also, his depth of target is really good. He's 6'4". He's a red zone threat. So he checks all the boxes. Targets, talent, size, red zone threat, throwing offense, bad defense. I think he's a wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 upside moving forward. So love T. Higgins. Still can't believe after all these weeks he's available, but it is what it is. Take advantage. And then last but not least, Dallas Goddard. Pretty obvious. I was probably like the only one that said Dallas Goddard would be a TE1 last year because people looked at him as a backup. Meanwhile, Philly ran more tight end sets than any other team, and he had probably more snaps than a lot of TE1s. Like, I think he even had more snaps than Gesicki or whatever. So most teams, the thing about Goddard is most teams have a pass catching tight end and a blocking tight end. Dallas Goddard is actually elite in both. And now that Ertz is out 3 to 4 weeks, the fact that you could get a potential top 5 tight end, very, very possible, especially how bad the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line is. So he's not going to have a lot of time to throw the ball. He's going to have to check it down to his tight ends and, make those quick throws over the middle. And like I said, no Ertz, and he was a T1 last year. So definitely could be a top 5. And that's such a big game changer for us guys because we know tight ends is just a cesspool. John O. Smith's been pretty quiet the last 2 weeks and still a top 5 tight end. Okay, so Dallas Goddard is definitely a must add. Okay, so those are my top 5 waivers. If you have any questions regarding those players or anything fantasy football related, just comment down below. I always try to get to as many comments as I can. If you're interested in the premium product, so you can get the whole list of waiver wire gems and free agent finds, as well as my complete list of trade targets. We'll be doing a buy, sell, hold video tomorrow. The rankings come out Thursday, and then an updated version on Saturday. $10 for the rest of the year, and it helps me grow my channel. There's a lot of stuff I still need. Like these lights are kind of dim, so I got to buy new lights. So everything that I get from you guys, it goes back to you guys. And the more I can get from you guys, the more content I can produce. Because right now I'm just like spreading myself thin, trying to do so much. And I really want to make sure that I bring you guys the best. So much love to everybody. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next time. Peace. Still working on that intro. That's another thing I gotta get.